speak like this, looking into your eyes, holding your hand. I'm so keen for it and everything.
Dab
Into
before we start.
Lock our eyes.
Well, they can't see what's going on below the desk.
That's fine. They'll just see like a rhythmic. Boys, welcome to the third episode of the Fatherless podcast. Today I'm joined with Iman Gadzhi. But first of all, before we begin, thank you for the hospitality. Iman flew me out business class and I've been staying with him for the past few days.
My pleasure, dude.
I appreciate that, man. So, you've had the absolute...
Actually, wait. I forgot something. Restore. Okay, wait. Stay here. I forgot. I got something.
Go on. Okay, so Iman has like a very expensive watch collection. So we're trying to find it. And we're going to do a giveaway. Oh, mashallah.
Recording the podcast reminded me because we were talking about it. It was in the maid's room. I forgot that. There you go. That's for you.
Thank you. I hope it's a bathrobe. You shouldn't have, baby. Guys, do that.
Only thing is there's no hood, so I don't know how well it'll work for your videos.
Oh my god. That's fancy, bro. Thank you, man.
All right, my pleasure.
You guys want to see me get changed right now? It's beautiful, bro.
Yeah, man, they're comfy, huh?
This is like the perfect 10 out of 10 gift that you could actually get me, bro.
Yeah, because I know you use it every single day.
When we were first getting the podcast booked, I literally came onto the call with Iman, like just wearing my normal bathrobe.
Yeah, he came on the call with like me and like three of my team members.
Just chest air out.
Yeah, like we were on a team call before. I was explaining that Hamza was coming over with some of my content team, and yeah, obviously showed up to a very professional business meeting in just his bare chest and robe, bro.
Yeah. How am I looking, boys? What a nice guy.
Looking fresh, man.
That's what I mean. The hospitality that you've shown me over the last few days, man. I appreciate that.
No, man, it's my pleasure.
So as I was saying, he's flew me out business class. I got in touch with him originally because I wanted to record this episode with you. Mm-hmm. And you've had like the very iconic story, which I think the majority of young men look up to. You dropped out of high school and now you're a young, successful millionaire at age 22. Mm-hmm. That's phenomenal. That's really remarkable.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel as though like every single year, the benchmark for what's phenomenal just keeps like, bro, I'm telling you, like in 4 years, we'll be sitting down with someone who's like 15 and is like a multimillionaire. And like, you're in like, I don't know. I think, I think anything's possible these days. So I don't like to label anything.
So when I first discovered you, my first impression, this was about 2.5, almost 3 years ago. So I've mentioned a bunch of times my story on my channel. I was down bad, living in Manchester, taking drugs every day, and I just about found entrepreneurship. I wanted to leave the 9-to-5 rat race and everything, and I found the online income, make money online type of videos. Mm-hmm. And your videos were popping up, especially like one of the adverts as well. Like, so I'm a 20-year-old high school drug. And my first impression was riddled with insecurity and jealousy. Mm-hmm. I hated you, you know. I literally, before we ever spoke, I'd only ever seen you once before, and you were like briefly mentioned in a Mo Samuels video. Mm-hmm. But my first impression was entirely negative because I was so sure that you were lying. I was so sure that no one like could be that successful. You know, there was something, you were just like lying, you faked it for the video or anything. Mm. And here I am doing a collab with you. Mm-hmm. It's as real as you said it was.
Yeah.
You're already I'm wearing
in my office. Yeah, I'm curious. I don't know, like coming here, am I any different to what you expected?
No, not necessarily.
No.
I'd say because I understand there's like a human side to the person you see online, because I'm now like the face of someone who's online. Mm-hmm. I kind of expected you to have like that human side before I came here. So I wasn't like fanboying over you or anything. But it was really when, I think on the first night when we were sat down in the restaurant and we were just speaking about childhood experiences, and it just hit me like, this is just like, it's just like a guy who's in front of me who's just amassed like a huge level of wealth, but it's like he's just a real person. It doesn't have to be just the pixels on the screen.
For
And
sure.
yeah, like what do you think of that? What do you think of the insecurity or jealousy that we can face when we see someone who's achieved a level of wealth?
I mean, look, I think it makes sense. And, you know, I think it makes sense. And I think, you know, everyone has it, no matter what they say, everyone has it to a certain point. You know, I even have good friends of mine where like, I've even picked up on myself, you know, good friends of mine, you know, they have, you know, they achieve, you know, they have a great year, they have some great accomplishment. And sometimes they'll tell me about it. And I'm like, I feel that it's just like a little twinge right here. And, you know, mentally, I'm so happy for them. I'm like so happy, so support. They're just that thing, because it's the first thing whenever you see what someone else's experience is or what they've accomplished is you just, you compare it to yourself, right? And I don't know. To me, I think it's natural. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Plus, I will say, dude, like I look like a fucking cunt sometimes online, right? And I'm very like aware of that, right? But the issue is like I always say to people, I'm like, look, here's the thing. If I like, dude, I want to talk about like I like long form stuff. I like 2-hour long form content, you know, stuff like this where you know I can actually get my personality across. But you know, if I put out on YouTube or I put out an ad or you know, because back then we were running some ads to try and grow the channel and stuff like that. You know, if I was like, look, to me, and I genuinely believe that 70% of success is meditate, work on your past traumas, don't drink alcohol as we're having some whiskey, but like, you know, don't drink alcohol, don't smoke pot. I don't care how creative you are, and you know, if you're someone who does well on weed, I don't give a shit. No, you're not. And the other one, get 9 hours of sleep a day. Like if you just do those things, like bro, I know this sounds ridiculous, but you're honestly, and you do it consistently, you're honestly 70% of the way there. And all you need is some sort of vehicle, right? All you need is some sort of like here's the thing, I'm really not the hardest working. I mean, I will say like, especially, you know, from 2014 to like 2018, I was a machine, right? But these days I'm really not the hardest working. It's just, you have to put a lot of hard work in, then you have to find the right track in life. And by the way, you know, everyone wants to talk about business and this and that. I have people in my company. I have many people in my company who make far more than any business owner will, or you know, any CEO will, right? These are people who make hundreds of thousands a year because the right track could just be aligning with the right company and every year showing more and more value. So it doesn't necessarily need, you know, not everyone needs to, you know, do what I did and drop out of school and build a business, you know, but just aligning on the right track. Because you could have someone who's incredible, but they're part of a company where there is no room for growth. And you know, the organization is very archaic and they don't see the value this person is providing. Whereas if they join a startup or they join something that sort of has that startup, you know, a bootstrap mentality to it, then they can actually get more ownership. So, you know, anyways, the reason I say all this stuff is because, you know, I would love to, you know, my message, I'd love to on the forefront just be like, yeah, all you do is just meditate and, you know, do some trauma release work and all, but people don't care about that. People care about like, you know, people care about like all the fancy stuff around and like all the wealth and the money and the blah, blah, and the wealth, money, the girls, like all this stuff is the stuff that's actually like, just gets so old so quick and it's not the fun stuff or the fulfilling stuff. But yeah, I guess that's what people want to see. So I like to draw them in with that. Or like, even if you look at my titles, you know, whatever, how I made $10 million in 2021. And then it's like, you look at that and you're like, oh, that's your 7 life lessons, blah, blah, something like that. And then it's like a 56-minute video where I'm talking about like just some very, very nuanced stuff. So unfortunately, you know, as much as I'd like to just have very nuanced titles and a nuanced approach, yeah, sometimes you got to hook people in. And, you know, probably even if people look at some of your titles on YouTube, right, it's very like abrasive even, right? Like, obviously, dude, I adore your content, but like, you know, someone might look at it and be like, just very repulsed by it. But then you listen to it and you're like, okay, there's a real message coming across here. So yeah, I mean, as I said, I don't blame you for, if I was in your situation, I'd be like, this guy looks like such a twat, man. So don't worry about it.
It's on the same level, man. So I think you have went through, you know, the process of creating content and trying to get people into your funnel. And you do kind of realize that those clickbaity titles where the people want to see pussy, It's pretty much just that. Like they want pussy, they want easy money, they want like the clickbait thing. What's going to help them the most is the fundamentals. And so the weird like funnel that I have of my videos is kind of like bake them in with a video about getting girls, and halfway through like be like, oh yeah, by the way, you're not getting girls because your mental health is trash right now. Like you wouldn't want to be around yourself right now. Why would a girl want to be around you?
Yeah.
But if you make a video on mental health, like they're not going to click on it because they're horny as fuck. They think that their problems is just a symptom of lacking the fundamentals. And that's why I appreciate your content and the monk mode video that really like brought you onto my radar. Because here's like a 40-minute video. You don't see that like much these days. It's all, you know, like the type of shit I do, which is like 3-minute spurgy shit and everything. But here's a 40-minute video of a guy just purely saying, okay, here's the fundamentals. None of this like, oh, here's how to make, like, the titles start with that. But it's so nice that like that's the start of the funnel to attract the guys who actually need the fundamentals more. So I think you're on the right path there. But let's say right now that if there's a young guy watching this who was in my position a few years ago, who straight away is getting like negative thoughts because it's like, oh, like he's a rich guy, he's wearing an expensive watch, and he's just like gave Hamza like an expensive thing, and like you know he must be greedy, he must be you know, that perception that you can have when you have a level of insecurity for the wealthy because you haven't really achieved that yet. Is there anything you want?
Yeah, I mean, basically, look, all I'd say is like, so I am you just 8 years on. Right, like people look at my age and they're like, you know, I just turned 22, and they're like, oh, this is crazy. I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, but also 8 years ago, I started reading a book a week, right? So it's like, I don't look at my age, I look at how long have you been doing something, right? So you gotta look at how long have I been doing something. Before I even had, you know, that business, you know, the first business that I ever started 5.5 years ago, I was reading a book a week. I was going to gym pretty much 6 times a week, reading a book a week, going to gym 6 times a week, meditating anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes a day. I don't even do that now. I probably know I should do. So I was working on me. And that's why when the right opportunity came about, and you know, the business that I started, it's not very, like, having a marketing agency is about as sexy as having an accounting firm. Like, it's not like, you know, I don't know. There's nothing like sexy about it, but it's a service-based business. And once again, it's like, even within the agency world, there's people who are slaves to their business and there are people who do it right. So whatever business, like, I don't take pride in being a hard worker. I take pride in being very smart and understanding leverage. And then I throw in hard work on top of that. And that's why I am where I am today. So as I said, the reason or the thing that I would say to someone who's looking at me is like, do what I did 8 years ago, which is like the fundamentals, and do what you did 3 years ago, which is and that's why you're here today. And by the way, like, it would be very interesting if we were sat here and I was like 8 years into self-development, business, this, that, and we had you at 8 years, right? Because I guarantee if you 8 years sat here with me at 8 years, bro, you probably be much farther ahead than I am, right? So I don't look at it as like age. I look at it as like, how long have you been doing this stuff? So yeah, I mean, for like, it's a long road, and this is why, like, I love a lot of the, you know, one of my passions is kind of like, I don't know the way to describe, like, the whole manosphere world, because it's like, as a man, you're not shit in this world. Like, you are not fucking anything, and no one will give you an ounce of fucking pity. You're here, and you gotta make it on your own, right? And as a man, you just go brick by brick by brick by brick, year on year on year, and then you look back and, you know, you've accomplished something. But yeah, you can either just keep circle jerking and, you know, stay in that loop for years and years. But at some point you gotta face the sobering reality that, like, you as a man have been brought into this world and you gotta create your own value.
That's a somewhat hard to swallow, like, fundamental truth of the manosphere and the red pill, because we've been sold the idea of equality, and for some reason, a lot of us have concluded that men and women are okay. We're exactly the same because it's politically correct. And anyone who's in the sort of red pill sphere will know there is major differences, especially in terms of sexual value. And so women generally just get theirs inherently through puberty. It's like they just become like beautiful, and there isn't necessarily much work that they have to do to increase that value. Whereas for a man, unless you're just born with the absolute like top tier genetics and stuff, fair enough. But apart from that, I think the quote, men have to build their value, is so incredibly true. Which brings us to like a very interesting, all the horny guys are getting like attention right now. Like, let's say Iman 8 years ago to Iman now, what's the difference in terms of your dating life?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I'll be honest. Like I've always had a good. Like I remember when I was even when I was like 14, 15, 16. So I had a girlfriend for like 2 years. My first relationship was like 2 years, and I remember bro, back then I was reading Way of Superior Man. I was reading Five Love Languages. I was reading, like I was reading a lot of, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
Yeah.
Dude, like I was reading a lot of those books back then. So like even back then, that's why, dude, I'll be honest, women with me are on their absolute best behavior. I don't have have never experienced a girl in my life that's late, that's disrespectful, they're like, I know, outside of, I don't know, maybe some, whatever, 4 years ago in a club or, like these days, I don't experience those sort of things with women. Cause like, once again, I cultivated that back when I was like 14, 15, 16. Like you need to act in accordance to the person who you want to become right now in order to become that person. So like, dude, when I was like 14, 15, 16, even my girlfriend, like she knew like my work is, I didn't even fucking have a business, right? Like my work is my number one. My self-study is my number one. If my girlfriend wants to hang out on Sunday and I haven't read my book for the week, it's not happening, right? And same thing with my friends. I had the exact same boundaries and same relationships with my friends. And that's why, dude, I was a real loner in school. And not only was I a loner, I hate the word like bully. Like I just don't like that word, but like, bro, and once again, I think bullying is like, it's, I don't know, sometimes you can kind of victimize yourself. Like in the same way you were like, oh bro, 3 years ago, I looked at you and I saw you were twat. Bro, if I was in school and I didn't have this sort of upbringing that I had and the reasons why I had to grow up quicker, I would even look at me and probably make fun of me. Dude, I was the fucking loner at lunch, reading a book on my own. There's a very like, everyone in my school knows this, and it's, my best friend likes to tell this story all the time. I used to spend my lunch breaks meditating in the bathroom because if when I woke up, I wake up every morning with like 3-4 hours sleep. Because I was going to school, going to gym 6 times a week, reading a book a week, and then also trying all these little like side hustles before I eventually found my business. So I was getting like 3-4 hours sleep a day. So meditating in the morning was an option. I just fall back asleep and miss school. I couldn't meditate at night because that was usually when I was doing most of my work. And once again, I'd fall asleep. So I just landed on meditating in my lunch breaks. And I guess that was also because all my friends would like kind of go out for lunch and stuff like that. And I couldn't afford to do that back then. So yeah, all this is to say that in terms of my dating life, look, of course I have a lot more options now. And I will say, man, there's some point in my life, I was telling you the other day, there's some point in my life I will actually, I don't know, I just want to help guys in like the whole date. Because, bro, even like a lot of guys who are like, whatever, looked at as like thought leaders and this and that when it comes to dating, like I know a lot of these guys, like, bro, behind closed doors, like it's not what it seems at all. The highest level dating, highest level business is the same as highest level dating, which is leverage. Like that's all it is, right? Like the more like as the years go by, the less and less speaking I do. Like I don't talk, I'm not a dancing monkey. I don't talk much. Like everything is, my entire life when it comes to my dating life, everything is pre-built. Social proof is pre-built. The place I go to, social proof is pre-built. My online presence and stuff, pre-built. Like all of the women I have, I mean, even you can kind of look at my Instagram and get a feel-ish for it. You can get a feel-ish for it, but it's still like, dude, that's like 1%. Like, I mean, I post stuff on Instagram that, even my friends are like, bro, I can't believe you post like, like very raunchy stuff. Or not so much raunchy, but it's clear that I enjoy a bit of debauchery in my personal life. But bro, that's like the 1%. So yeah, basically I want to do as little amount of work and get the best yield in terms of results. And I apply that to business and I apply that to my personal dating life. So I think there are a lot of, and by the way, like, great book called Power versus Force, and it's always stuck with me. I read that book pretty early on. Like I want to have power, not force. And, I was telling you the other day, like, dude, I used to be like 16 and I had a fake ID and I used to go to the club 3 times a week. And, like the best clubs in London, because, I've always had older friends and stuff and they would take me. And dude, I practiced cold approach and all that stuff. And, I wasn't drinking at the end of the night. I would write down, okay, here's what I did well. And that's why these days, like, bro, it's so natural to me. Like, it's just, but you got to put in that legwork in the same way is said. It's like, I made $10 million last year, and someone might look at that and that's insane. It's like, honestly, as I said, bro, in like 4 years, if you made $10 million a year, I really would not be surprised, right? Because you're putting in that groundwork. And like back in 2017, I was working like a fucking animal. I was working like a dog, right? And all fairness, I still am, just with a lot more leverage. So I think, on the whole dating point, there's a lot of hoops you have to go through first. There's a lot of hoops you have to go through first. But then when you look at the super, super high level guys, like it's basically you just have to forget everything, all the previous stuff in terms of like the whole cold approach community and this and that. But first you have to go through that.
So stereotypically, a young man learns things about women and dating, relationships from their father. Did you ever get lessons like that?
Well, I don't have a dad.
But your stepdad,
I guess that's the point of the podcast.
Your stepdad was like somewhat around for some periods.
Yeah, no. He was no, definitely not. He was quite an evil man. Yeah. So,
have you felt like you've had any father figures?
No.
Your mom's just
no. My mom, but as I said, my mom's a G. So it's like. My mom's, I was saying this today, like my mom's the most, I don't know, is it blue pill or red pill? Red pill, yeah. My mom's like the most red pill woman.
That's an alpha male.
Like my mom's like, but she's like, yeah, she understands, because she's, she grew up in the Soviet Union, and she's like, I grew up with Russian traditional values, and I appreciate that, right? Like simple things like, as a man, I will pay. I'm no one's sugar daddy. I'm no one's like, I don't buy girls gifts. I don't, unless, they're a long-term girlfriend. I don't, none of that shit. Right. But like, if we're at dinner, I'm paying. Like, and it's funny when like I hear guys and like, they're like, oh, but that's a low, I think some guys think that's like, oh, you're being a cuck or something. Like, okay, try hanging out with the top 0.001%, like 0.001% of women and expect them to pay. See how that goes for you. And dude, for me, I will show up as a certain way as a man, and I expect, like, if I'm with a girl and she won't cook, but dude, like I don't, like, I either have a chef, I either eat out, or I get food delivered. Like I don't even like having home cooked food that much, right? But for me, it's just a simple thing. I have, you just saw my cleaners. It was like, to clean this 4-bedroom apartment, there was like 7 people that showed up, right? It was like a mini SWAT team, right? So I don't need a girl necessarily to clean, but for me, those are things that are important, and those are things that I expect, right? So yeah, I don't know. I'm about as I'm not politically correct at all, and I'm very unapologetic about it. And I think I look at I have so much reverence for my mother, and I have so much respect for my mother, and I look for, I always talk about how much I look forward to being a father and having a son. But dude, if I have a daughter, she is going to be such an incredible woman, because I'm sure my wife will be such an incredible example. But outside of that, dude, my mom is like if you could take me or my mom, if only one person could leave my mom, because like, trust me, the world doesn't need more fucking entrepreneurs. Like we have enough of that. The world, especially right now, needs more stand-up women like my mother, who are a perfect example of how to be a strong woman, who, if push comes to shove, can rely on herself, but in the same side, understands her beauty as a woman, understands what it's like to submit to a man when you find the right man, and understands, she just understands like the beauty and the polarity, and that one is not better than the other, right? It's a dance, and you need both. So yeah, I think maybe I had that advantage over other people growing up with, with the mom that I did.
That's really interesting. So you got to understand like the masculine, the feminine energy, and you've been reading like The Way of the Superior Man. So that's like a fantastic resource of the fundamentals of what you're supposed to do as a man and what she's supposed to do as a woman, because we don't really get these lessons in day-to-day life. But your mother was actually the one who's drilled in that polarization, the yin and yang, and it's a beautiful thing to experience.
Yeah, she's a gangster.
Yeah, no, she really is, man. So that's interesting. So do you feel like your work rate and your desire for everything that you've built, especially because you started being like productive at a young age? Is that in a sense to like pay back your mother?
Yeah, but 100%, you know, and like, dude, everything, all that stuff was from my mom, right? It's like, you know, single mom, as you said, like, I had a stepdad, but that was more bad than it was good. And like, you know,
Why was it bad?
oh, dude, he was the most evil man I've ever met. I've met some fucked up people. He's the most fucked up person I've ever met by far. And I had a weird childhood because it was like, you know, I told you the other day, it was like a weird kind of marriage between my mom and my stepdad. It was very odd. I went to private school, right? So I went to private school, and that was kind of like our side or our benefit. And my mom, and we got to live in London, and we got to live in Chelsea. So it was weird because I grew up around money, but then my stepdad never gave me and my mom any money or support us in any way. So my mom was bouncing between, you know, minimum wage jobs. She was Chelsea and Westminster Hospital. She was a receptionist there. You know, temporary summer jobs at Harrods, working minimum wage. At some point when things got bad, we were on government benefits. So I just had a very, you know, I had a very, very weird childhood. And from the age of like 7, 8, it was very clear. Like I was like 7, 8 years old. I was told my mom, I was like, I will take care of us. Like I said that from that age, and from like the age of 14, it wasn't like I'll take care. It was like unless I take care of us quickly, we're fucked. We're royally fucked. And everything that I saw coming came true. Like, you know, when I turned 18, my basically, oh, and the benefit for my stepdad was he saved a lot of money on taxes. So it was weird. He was, yeah, and he wasn't around much either. And when he wasn't a very good example. Like, yeah, I remember some of my earliest memories is just like, and this is the light stuff. This is like the stuff that I'm probably, you know, I don't feel uncomfortable talking on camera, but like, dude, I remember being like 6 or 7 years old, like receiving calls. Hi, this is such and such escort services. We're looking for, you know, my stepdad's name. And like, this is what I said, like, dude, I had to grow up very quickly. And then, you know, my mom would be like, because my dad was flying back from Dubai that day. And my mom was like, oh, who was that? I was like, oh, such and such escort services. And like, obviously I didn't know what that actually meant, but I could kind of infer, and I saw, you know, her face. I think because it was going on 24/7, right? Not surprised at all, but like a little saddened. And I was like, you know, I was like 6 or 7 years old. I was like, no, mother, you don't understand. Like they escort him from the airport to the house, like an escort, like, well. So yeah, man, he definitely was not a good example of a yeah, he was definitely not a good example of a man. So yeah, I don't know. It was a very weird childhood, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I had the best of both worlds because I grew up with no money. Like, and even like the house I lived in, man, by the time I left, for the previous 2.5 years before I moved out when I was 17 years old. It was like, that was my biggest fucking dream, was like having my own place. Cause like I have like the worst, like I still have like really bad nightmares from like the fucked up stuff I saw like in my childhood house. Like that was not a happy place for me at all.
What did you see?
Just lot like I don't know, man. I grew up very quick. Like just a lot of stuff you're not meant to see at a young age. So yeah. Anyways, so the last 2 years that I was there, you know, there was no warm water, there was no heating, and then when he found out that I was like starting a business, he cut off the Wi-Fi. So I was telling you the other day, like still to this day, actually, the phone number that I have is with 3. And like, if you live in the UK, you know, like 3 is just not the one. Like 3 is just not it, right? Like everyone knows, like, let's be honest, like if you got 3, like you're a bit of a road man, right? Like just, you know, but the reason I have 3 is because back in like 2014, 2015, I remember there was like 25 pounds a month. They did unlimited Wi-Fi and hotspot. So I basically built my entire business off of hotspot. So yeah, anyways, this is a long winding discussion basically. So yeah, I had a very interesting childhood where I kind of had the best of both worlds. I went to school with some very, very wealthy people, and I lived in an affluent area, but then I still had the personal struggle of, you know, me and my mom had no money. So yeah.
How often would you see your stepfather?
He'd come 2 or 3 months a year. Yeah.
And what was it like when he was staying with you?
Fuck, man, it was terrible. Yeah, I was so scared of him. I still am. He's like the only, which now at this point I know is irrational, but he's just yeah, he's a very he's a very powerful man. So yeah, not fun.
So let's say young teenage Iman or high school age, what's like a normal day in the life for you when he was at home around you?
I don't know. Wake up, talk to him when he was in the office. I guess that maybe that's one good thing he taught me. He would always wake up at like 6 a.m. without fail. He'd wake up at 6 a.m., work from 6 to 12, and then the rest of the day just watch movies and documentaries and just. And we played a lot of chess as well. That's one thing I will be forever grateful. Played a lot of chess growing up. And this dude fucking wicked smart. So yeah, that's something I guess I will be grateful for. But yeah, I don't know. I just would say, see him in his office. And as I said, I guess maybe that was a good example. I'd see him every morning in his office. I don't know how much work he was actually doing. But yeah, I'd see him in his office. He'd be whatever, doing this and that. And then I'd come back and he'd be fucking chilling, watching movies. So I guess maybe those are two good things I can take away from my childhood.
You have a very nice personality,
I was gonna tell you this the other day. One thing I really respect about you? You are not afraid to give a compliment. Like I've noticed you give a lot of and like I was trying to take heed of it for me personally because like I think a lot of the stuff that you say, but like it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter what I think of you if I don't vocalize it. So yeah, I want to commend you on the fact that like I really look up to the fact that yeah, man, it's just you bring a lot of really good energy into this world.
Thank you. It makes me very interested because we actually had this conversation just a few days ago. With the upbringing that you went through, there really was two completely opposite paths that you could have went through. And like, why do you think it was this one which pursued success and, stayed productive, had this drive, compared to what also a huge majority of the boys who find themselves like essentially fatherless or experiencing trauma or abuse, and they'll sink deeper and deeper into like the depths of depression, into like addiction and everything.
Once again, I think that's where I got very lucky because I had on paper, I honestly don't know anyone who had a more like, if you look at the hurdles they had to jump through, like a more difficult upbringing, like in the sense of like, from the age of 16 taking care of my mom financially, 17 finally fucking managing to escape and like move into my own place. When I was 18, what I knew was gonna happened. My stepdad filed for divorce, and he basically, played a game of a war of attrition. So basically, he spent hundreds of thousands. Like I was 18 years old. All the money I'd earned, hundreds of thousands, I spent on legal fees. For simple, like, without getting too into it, because fuck man, if I see another divorce legal, or if I see any more legal fees, I'm just gonna throw up. But like simple stuff just to keep me and my mom in the country. Like he would, whatever, say we forged his signature for our visa, and then that invalidates our passport. And then great, now you have to spend another fucking 50,000. To just, it's not a. I realized the whole thing in the legal system of like innocent until proven guilty, that's a whole load of shit. It's no, you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent, because that's how they get money out of you. So stuff like that. There's 7-8 other very not so nice stuff, especially for mom to be accused of and go through and stuff like that. So I had like there's no one. Sometimes I've even people tell me about privilege. I'm like, man, go fuck yourself. Like honestly, there's not a single person I know who had like. Imagine that, you being 18 years old, you worked your fucking ass off, you got all this money, like the money that you have actually saved. Now you got to spend on legal fees. But I knew that was coming. I knew if I didn't do what I did, me and my mom, the day I turned 18, which is January 3rd, we'd be on the streets. That was his first thing, was like, you have 7 days to leave my house. Bear in mind, she'd been living in that house for 15 years. You have 7 days to leave my house, so try to put her on the streets. Once again, if I was in school, that's it. Like the moment I turned, like the school pay tuition fees wasn't because was trying to be nice or anything. It was legit. It was not what's the word I'm looking for. It's basically just to show that like, yes, I'm still married and taking care of my, well, all this stuff. Anyways, yeah. So, there's no one I know that had a more difficult childhood on paper. But the thing that I'm very lucky is the area that I was in. That's the one thing that I will always say. Like, I genuinely don't think anyone had a better on paper better childhood for success than I did, because I had so much fucking pressure to take care of me and my mom. So I had that drive. But then on the flip side, I had examples of it all around me. Like for me, I'll be honest, dude, from the age of 14, it wasn't like, oh, maybe I'll make 100 million. It's like, I know for a fact, like it's never been a doubt in my mind. And it still isn't a doubt in my mind, even a billion. Like it was pre-written in the script. It's just, I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish a lot sooner than I did, to be honest. Like, let's say, for example, like having 10 million in the bank after tax. Like I thought I would do that maybe at 30, not at 21, but I still knew I was going to fucking do it either way. So I think that's where I got very, very lucky, is the fact that, I think if I had all that shit with my family, and then I also was in a place where, I had no example of success around me, and it wasn't in my field of vision, then maybe, it wouldn't have gone the way that it did. And I will say, it's not like I had any entrepreneurial friends or anything like that I could look to, but just, even just, I don't know why, I just got very lucky to I was 14 to stumble into, reading books, Tony Robbins, Stephen Covey, like you just like all those classes, Robert Kiyosaki, watching the podcasts, like, or listening to podcasts, and, just diving deep into that world when I was young. I got very, very lucky, to just stumble upon that, in the same way that anyone who's stumbling upon your podcast, dude, they'll probably look back in 4 years and be like, fuck, Hamza had a very large role to play in the fact that I turned my life around. So yeah, there's small little people that you can look at, whether they're in your immediate circle or not, can do a lot for you.
That's the beauty of the internet.
Yeah.
There's that quote, in self-improvement, you're the middle of the 5 people you spend time with. And I think the new updated version is kind of like, you're the average of the 5 people whose content you consume.
Yep, I agree with that.
And so you just, somehow stumbled upon like the finance books and the classics, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and everything. And they essentially became your father figures then.
Yeah, 100%.
That's really beautiful. Like when you think about the power of a book, it's here we have a young kid who only really is seen quite negative, abusive, like as a role model. And then here you have like a very successful guy who's written a book on like finances, and it's almost like you're learning from like daddy, but from like just an inherently just positive, here's how to improve your finances. It really is like so nice that, and this is one of the things that I think I most respect about you, is like you've had such a huge focus on education. And you've done it in such like a positive, like beautiful way. Like we've not even mentioned it, but if you know his story, like here's a guy who's dropped out of high school and he's like literally building more schools in like less fortunate areas. It's what you see on first impression. I think, especially if you're blinded by like insecurity and jealousy, as I was. Okay, this guy's a dick. He's rich. He's faking it. It's a lie or anything. And you peel back just a couple of the layers. You're like, what the fuck? Like he's literally transformed. He's as positive of like a role model as like a young man could be. Like it's actually insane what you've went through, like the complete 180. Like that's so inspiring.
No, I appreciate that, dude. I still got a long way to go though. Like trust me, like there's areas of my life I've really nailed down. There's other areas that I definitely still have a lot of work.
Like which ones?
I don't know. You say like positive role model. Like, dude, I'll be honest. I have, like for example, like I have even friends of mine that are 24, 25, married, happily married, this, that. Like, dude, I'd say they're probably the more like positive role model, right? Because they have whatever, successful in business, this, that, and then they don't party and enjoy themselves and drink and this, and me, I'm very like, I'm one or the other. Either I'm doing monk mode or I'm fucking partying a lot and having a lot of fun. So yeah, like that's. I always say to my friends, I'm like, fuck, man, I wish I could be. I genuinely, like, I actually, from the bottom of my heart, wish I could be like you. But I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't know, certain traumas growing up or this or that. Like, yeah, I don't know, man. Sometimes I can be a real like hedonistic, hedonistic. I can be quite hedonistic at times, and definitely indulge in some of the finer things in life, which I don't think is a good thing.
And why do you think you're driven to that?
I don't know, man. Like, I was saying to you the other day, there's certain areas of my life, like I mentioned to you, like, for example, fitness, right? Like, I've been training since the age of 14. Like, when I'm in the gym, like, I don't, like, I think it was a perfect parallel. Like, in terms of my body, I'd say, pretty much, most guys will look at the body and the physique I have, and they're like, fuck, that's like the dream. But I don't build any of my self-worth from that. Like, I don't ever look at my, myself in the gym, in the mirror, and go like, oh, this makes me, this is a part of my self-worth, right? I'm, for example, I want to this year probably put on another 3 or 4 kilos of muscle. I don't do that because I'm like, oh, that's a reflection of who I am. I'm just like, oh, yeah, I enjoy training, and like, why not? Like, I just do it for the love of it, right? And that's, first of all, when you get the best results, because it's not clouded by anything, and second, like, that's just the most, like, it's just from a place of love, right? And just from a place of like respect for the thing. Whereas this stuff with like the business, where it's like, I still don't get me wrong, with the businesses, I love what I do and I have great respect, and I, for me, it's I have great honor in what I do. But as I said, me at right now 89 kilos and me at 93 kilos, my self-worth has not changed in the slightest. Me at 10 million in the bank after tax and me at 30 million in the bank after tax, I think my self-worth changes, right? And I don't think that's a healthy thing, right? And I think that's the same with both when it comes to money and status / women. And yeah, I think there's nothing inherently wrong with these things, with being super well. It's just the place that it comes from. And I think a lot of it is still, I'm very different to, for example, like the way that I was like 3 or 4 years ago. I remember like even 4 years ago, probably if you met me very quickly, very early on, if you met me at like an event or something like that, very early on, I'd find a way to sneak in how much money I'm making. And I know, I've mentioned it here, but that's really just more for context and whatever, we're doing a podcast. But like, when I meet people these days, let's say at an event, and they ask me what I do, my go-to response is, I'm in the avocado business. Like, I import, export avocado. Like, or that, either that, or I say I work for a company called IAG Media, as in like I'm an employee to, my own business. Because whatever, man, like, it's low key. People don't need to know. So that's me 4 years on. Probably in 4 years, I'll look back, and I look back at shit I said in 2018. I'm like, that's really distasteful, and you reek, you absolutely fucking stink of insecurity. Like, it's like, I'm disgusted by it, right? And I'm very different now, and I'm a lot more secure in myself now than I was 4 years ago. But probably in 4 years, I'll look back and I'll be like, fuck, 2022, man, reeks of insecurity. And yeah, I think a lot of times as well, people look at, ultra successful people, and they're like, how could that person ever be insecure? And trust me, insecurity is a large part of why they even got there in the first place. So yeah, it's I come in and out of it. Like, there's, for example, periods where literally money does not affect my self-worth at all, because I'm loving the process so much. But I'd say there's still a vast majority where I'm like, this is directly, I place some of my self-worth on this. Yeah.
That was a phenomenal insight. Insecurity is a huge part of, I'd say, most people's success. It's, like you said, it was the exact opposite for us. For me, there's no level of insecurity in the work that I do, the videos that I make. It's literally just intrinsically motivating. I've always, like, from age 13, before I was making any kind of money, I just love the process of just making a video, putting it online. And oftentimes, like, I literally watch my videos more than I watch any other creator. Like, I'll happily watch my videos for fun. Whereas the gym, for at least 6.5 years, was totally just extrinsic motivation. Is the example I gave you, that if I can, for example, increase like my lifts and I can pack on some more muscle, then hopefully more people will love me, because I didn't get like such a consistent sense of love in childhood. And it seems like it's the opposite version of you, which is that's so incredibly interesting that I think we've experienced like somewhat similar things in terms of like childhood abuse and everything, and we've just both just found like a different outlet for it. But looking back, probably both of us would agree, like I don't think we'd actually change it.
I think it serves you to a certain point, and then now it doesn't serve me anymore. Right? I don't like. There's no part of me that's works harder, gets better results, and feels better about themselves using that as like, you know, the thing to dwell on, or like the thing that's still a large part of the motivating force compared to like the best people on earth. It's like you know, you look at Michael Jordan, you look at Steve Jobs, you look at Amy Winehouse, right? You look at these people and it's like, dude, like fucking watching these people, they literally have like it's like they've got like God flowing through them. Like it's literally like you watch it, it's like they're connected to something divine, right? And like when I'm doing my best work, it feels like I'm connected to something divine, like bigger than myself. It feels like I'm tapping into, and I'm channeling, right? Like, and that's what these people are doing, is they're channeling. And if you want not very good, I'm talking exceptional. I'm talking the best of the best, like the best of the best comedians, the best of the best actors, and actresses, the best of the best, whatever, like they're channeling, right? Like they're tapping into, to me, what is some sort of divine energy. And when you're so like stuck in here, and you can't tap into that. So once again, like a lot of things that we've talked about here, certain things serve you to a certain point, and you have to use them. But at a certain point you need to, and that's also where I see a lot of people get stuck. Like it serves you to a certain point, but you need to know what's that next step, right? And what's the thing that's going to get you to the next level. So I agree. When you first start, I think it's, you know, it's a great tool and a great motivation to have, but at a certain point you need to know when to let it go.
Yeah, that makes good sense. So insecurity is the burning, like the motivating force to start, because you see this in a lot of like the athletes documentaries and with, you know, bodybuilding and everything. It's always that same story of like, oh, you know, I was a little skinny guy, no one respected me, and girls didn't hold eye contact with me, but then I started lifting weights and now girls hold eye contact with me. It'll certainly get you starting, and there is science to show that avoiding fear / avoiding pain is highly more motivational than wanting pleasure. And so it seems to be, I'm trying to even put together like a self-improvement plan for someone who's, you know, particularly down bad. Let's say some random 18-year-old who's just doing all the bad habits, he's not being productive. It's weirdly like a toxic mindset, but it's kind of beneficial for a guy like that to have that sense of like the dark side of motivation to like get back at that girl, not in like in a hostile way, but it's the guy who makes the best gains of his life after a breakup.
Yep.
It's the guy who like goes through like childhood trauma and then goes on to be successful after that. It at least gets like the ball rolling, because it's almost like we want to channel that aggressive energy into something that's actually productive. But by the time that thing has started taking off and we've gotten the habits and it's snowballing, that's definitely when more of like the sort of negativity, the hostility, the aggression, it's just increasing your cortisol, it's just stressing you out, and it's like you've already got the ball rolling. Then it's time, okay, let's heal our trauma, let's talk about mental health.
For sure.
Let's talk about trauma then. How do you feel it still affects you today?
You know, I guess that's the thing. Like a lot of trauma is unconscious until it becomes conscious. And there's still stuff to this day where I like the unconscious becomes conscious, right? Like even just that insight that I told you, like probably like a year ago, I wouldn't have been able to see how I act different in the different aspects of my life. You know, as I said, like that's just one aspect where when it comes to health that I'm really like I'm channeling, like it's just for the love of it. So yeah, as I said, there's like a lot of yeah, and even insecurity, like, you know, 3 years ago, maybe, if you asked me, like, are you an insecure person? I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like the most, like, you meet me, I'm like the most self-confident person. I'll go speak to anyone and you know, a lot of these things are just very beneath the surface. And like the more and more as time goes on and the more work I do on it, like as in like the better my insecurity gets, as well as like my general environment, like as the more that better that gets, even though those things are both moving in the right directions, it's more and more apparent to me, like, wow, like a lot of stuff you do, it's it's not because like a lot of it is just programming. So as I said, it's new stuff comes to me every year. The unconscious becomes conscious.
Yeah. It really is awareness, isn't it?
Yeah. And no matter, also that's the other thing, no matter how much meditation you do, there's a lot of meditation and a lot of psychedelics. Sometimes it's just like, these lessons will be presented at the right time.
So if we visualize now a young fatherless man, let's say he's 18 years old and he's never really had like a good father figure. He has never experienced healthy masculinity, the stereotypical like down bad self-improvement story, and he's watching this. What do you feel like he needs to hear?
I'd say the biggest thing is start off with becoming the hero in your own mind. Like that, to me, that's the biggest thing. Like I was always the hero in my mind. Like, dude, before, like basically my favorite book is, it's actually probably quite ironic. My favorite book is Great Gatsby, as well as favorite movie. I've probably read the book. I did a lot of reading growing up. I've read the book 20, 30 times. Watched the movie maybe 15 times. And dude, I read that book first time when I was 14. And I resonated with it. Like I really I was like, I'm the hero in my, from a young age, I was like this hero in my own mind. And it was like, I think that's the big thing as well. It's people who are down bad, like they don't have a good self-image of themselves. And quite frankly, yeah, I don't blame you. You shouldn't, because like you're not valuable. You're fucking withering your life away. But that's you now. So don't try to change it. Like the affirmations, I am this. No, you're not. You're like, you are a useless piece of fucking shit. But you don't have to stay that way, right? Like what's you look at all these movies, right? Is it any fun if the main character starts off successful and starts off at a great place and everything just no? Like a good movie has turbulence, and you are, to me, I've always viewed myself as like the main character in my movie, and it's like you start off at a really shit place, you build, you have some wins, you have some losses, but like I want people to focus. And by the way, this also doesn't mean being the hero of your own movie. This doesn't mean to me, okay, go look at Ferraris, go look. I'll be honest, to me, like I do somewhat, I can kind of see the point in a vision board somewhat. I think it's actually better, and I tell a lot of people in my community to do this. I think it's actually better if instead you go to Rolex, you try on a Rolex, it becomes tangible, it becomes real. You've had a Rolex on your wrist. I think it's better if you go to a very, very, very expensive restaurant and just have a coffee. I tell people all the time, like, look, if you go to Starbucks, you have a £3 coffee, or you go to, you have afternoon tea at the Ritz, right? And of course, some places there's minimum spends and stuff, but you sit in the lobby of a very, very, very expensive hotel. You're still not going to pay more than £5 for a coffee. A coffee is a fucking coffee, right? But when you're sitting in that hotel, literally everyone is spending at least £1,000 a night to stay at that hotel, at least, right? And that reprograms and rewires you in a lot of ways. And speaking about the UK, look, if I said I was very lucky. Like even though my childhood home was like a shithole, we had no warm water, no heating, and then I said the last 2 years no Wi-Fi as well. Although it was a shithole, I lived around a lot of wealth, right? If you don't have that, if you're not as fortunate to be around that, take the fucking train. Take the fucking train. Go with one of your friends that's also not a dumb fuck and wants to improve his life, and go to a super expensive hotel and instead just have a coffee or something like that. That it makes it tangible, makes it real. But the reason I say all this is because I don't believe too much in the I have a Ferrari and a vision board and this and that. Like when I say the hero of my mind, like when I was young, I wasn't I literally never visualized the Ferrari or here's a very interesting story for you. I remember even when I was younger, how like some people like turn their heads at expensive cars, or they'll even take photos with it or take photos of it. Never once did I ever allow myself to even turn my head at an expensive car. I was like, why would I? Like I was like 14 years old. I was like, why would I? Like you turn your head when it's not normal for you. I was like, it's gonna be my life. Very soon I'm gonna be driving the car. Why would I? And it's the same thing like when you see like a super attractive girl. Like unless you have the intention of going up and speaking to her, don't look at her 4 times. Like, either look at her once, twice, and be like, okay, I'm gonna go speak to this person. Or if you're not gonna do that, and by the way, no judgments, sometimes you're having a bad day, don't fucking keep glancing over, because to me, when you put something on a pedestal, it's signaling to yourself, I am not deserving of that. So that's why I would never, ever, ever, ever dare let myself, have more than a glance at a car. Maybe I might hear the sound go by and I might look, but I would never look at a car, obsess over a car, this and that, because I'm like, this will be my reality very soon. And that's why when I was young, the whole hero in my mind, it was not like, oh, when I drive the Ferrari. And by the way, like, also, that's such a shit fucking goal. Like, like, it's like, what a terrible goal.
I'm
like,
glad you said that.
Like, really, like, first of all, you can rent, you can rent them, you can do a whole bunch of shit, right? Like, for me, my goal was like, okay, I want to retire my mom. And I was like 13, 14 with this hero image in my mind. Like, I was 13, 14 with this idea of like, I'm going to have multiple homes in multiple locations, which I have now. And the other big thing is I will always make sure my mom is close with me. And that's the case. I've got my 4-bedroom apartment here in Dubai. I got my mom an apartment, whatever, 15 floors up. And yeah, that's it. It was all this idea of like being the hero in my own mind. So yeah, one thing that I always try to get people to do is almost build out like a little Wikipedia for themselves. Like, write out your own Wikipedia, but like once you die, like with the idea that you've died. And I did this a lot when I was younger, is I really wrote out my full Wikipedia, like in third person, describing myself and describing what I accomplished, my attributes, etc. The things that I was remembered for. So as I said, for someone that's down bad, I think pain is only bad when there's no end in sight, right? So if your life is shit and it's tough and it's difficult and there's no end in sight, that's when it's really scary. But if your life is tough and difficult, but you have a vision and an end in mind, and as I said, you can build out this image where you are your own hero, I think, I think that's the first step.
So it's interesting. Okay, so you said level up the vision board, because one of the things I tell my boys, okay, visualizations improve your self-image, and I've actually seen a lot of people make like these vision boards. And interestingly, I was literally just watched like a full-length podcast by Dr. Andrew Huberman. You ever heard of him? Huberman Lab. And he's going through like the neurobiological studies of things like visualizations. And he said they're actually not anywhere near as effective as we think. The two things that is foreshadowing failure. So think about the thing that you want, then think about the obstacles that would arise. And then you visualize, not, let's say, the Ferrari, but more so you visualize the obstacle of you waking up early and you don't want to. And, you focus on each and every step and the problem that you'd have to overcome. But the second one, very similar to what you've said and what a YouTuber I really like named First Man, what he said is essentially have as much stimulus as possible in the thing that you want to experience. So instead of just seeing it in your mind and it's very intangible, he was saying that there was a big significant difference when participants saw like themselves photoshopped with the body that they wanted compared to just visualizing it. You're taking it a big step further along with the YouTuber First Man. Essentially, his phrase is live like a king for a day. So he said that what he's done a few times is that he's purposely pretended to be like way more wealthy than he is, spent like $1,000 on like some hotel and stuff, and so like can really feel himself there, because then you're truly in that environment. And I think that's like the Huberman Lab's idea of like photoshopping yourself, but like on steroids. And in fact, the girl that I met yesterday, she did that exact same thing. She actually booked a room in his hotel. It's like £900, which, for a normal, like, she's a student as well. That's an incredible price to pay. But she was saying the exact same thing. It's like, she wants it to be somewhat normalized in her mind. Like, it's almost, now it's real, instead of it being like such a distant thing. And I think that's actually some very, very like incredible practical advice. Like, whatever you seek in terms of the goals, try and make it as real as possible right now. See if there's a way, like if you do have a stereotypical like dumbass goal of like the Ferrari or something, go take it on a test drive, just pretend you're like a rapper or something like that, and just, fool them into just letting you drive it. If you see yourself in like some fancy apartments, instead of just taking a picture of it or something, go and view one. When you're inside, it will feel real and it'll actually show you. It's kind of like meeting you. It'll show you like, yeah, this is real. This isn't like, it's not pixels on the screen. It's not like that wishy-washy type of thing. Like, it is a human person I can see right now. And it's like, yeah, like I'm doing a collaboration with a guy who's worth like 10 million or something. It's, it's real. And so it really opens up that thing in your mind, which shows you like, oh yeah, like this is somewhat becoming more and more normal. I think it's actually, I see a bunch of guys talk about this in terms of they're building success and attracting more and more beautiful women. It's like a beautiful woman's almost like so mysterious, and like, for the average guy, it's like they're just pixels on the screen. Whereas when you see one in person, especially if you've like smelt their shit, it's like, yeah, like that's a human, bro. Like she poops, bro. It's like, then it's real. Then it's like, yeah, it's real. So I don't need to put it on a pedestal anymore. I don't need to think it's like some mysterious thing which gets too much attention. It's that girl at the corner of the gym who looks like an Instagram model, so you keep peeking and peeking and peeking. What you're saying is just like, at the very least, experience it. And if you're not going to experience it, just fucking focus on something else.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, whatever you chase runs. So, I don't believe in chasing anything. Yeah, I believe in attracting things instead.
Yeah, improve yourself until what you want chases you.
Exactly.
I love that mindset. How's your mental health right now?
Right now, it's pretty frenetic. Yeah, it's I have a lot going on at the moment, which I don't like. Like a lot of people get on and they're like, I have 7 companies and blah. Like, dude, I almost throw up in my mouth the fact that I have 4 companies. Like, it's not anything I'm proud of. I think it's stupid, but a little bit about my businesses. One is agency. That's the one I've had for 5.5 years. Then I also have an education platform with courses, custom tools, a custom community, everything like that. And then I have a software company. So as my agency grows, it's more, I guess at this stage, honestly, the more my agency grows, I don't even think it changes anymore, because for 5.5 years I've been documenting, running an agency. This is what happens. I told you I always want to have my mom close, and I always make sure wherever I am in the world, she has the key to my place. Let me tell her. Now we got like 5-10 more minutes.
Yeah. So, one last question. What kind of father do you want to be?
Really left the heavy hitting one in the final. Man, I don't know. Like, that's such a long. I don't know, it could be such a long answer because there's so many different attributes I want to encompass. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I want to be that first. Before my son is a hero in his own mind, I want to be the hero in his mind, right? At a certain point, like as a son, and I guess I guess your dad. I mean, especially if you've got a very, very special father, and I have friends who have very, very special fathers, where it's like they're 32 and their dad is still their hero in their mind, and I think that's like, dude, that's the fucking coolest thing ever. Like, if my son is like, just, and these are people who are like these friends of mine are worth hundreds of millions, and they've accomplished everything you ever want to accomplish in their mind, and their dad is still their hero. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. So, I said I could talk for 30 minutes about all the traits that I want to encompass, but the way that I know that I did my job right is if even when my son is 20, 30, I'm still a hero in his mind. That means that I've done something to be a very stand-up person. And I think setting that example is probably the most important thing.
What do you think it would take to achieve that?
I think a lot of things, honestly, I think even if I had a kid now, I think when a kid's like 5 or 6, their dad's always their hero in their mind, right? But then, once they get a little older, for me, like, I think there's a lot of stuff that I do that I actually am very proud of. Like, I would say I'm a very honorable person. There's a lot of stuff that's happened in the world that I'm very outspoken about. And man, I am very principles oriented. Like, I don't give a fuck how I sound. I don't care what stones people throw at me, anything like that. Like, if I know something is fundamentally wrong, I think there's only in life, you probably only get between 5 to 10 opportunities to really show your character. And I will say, especially in the last like 2 years, maybe even 3 years, like I look back at the things I've done. I'm like, I passed every single one of those tests. Like I would say I'm very proud of sticking to my principles.
I like that. So we'll wrap up there. And one last question, just for my own personal gain. Do you have any advice for me?
Advice for you: get out of your area. Like yesterday. Like I don't know. Like, dude, you obviously, I won't say it here, but man, when you even told me, like, bro, your audience has no fucking clue how much money you make. Bro, you make a lot of money, right? Like, you make a lot of money, right? You are a very, very, very successful business owner. And also they like, bro, I'm gonna be honest, even your operation, I didn't realize how much goes into it. Like, of course you make a lot of money, but you spend a lot of money for the operation. So dude, like in your situation, like, dude, I think in the same way, that's also kind of badass. Like, you used to live at home, with your parents. But dude, like, now it's time. So once again, this is also sort of a paradigm thing. Like, in your situation, you need to go and you need to be around all this wealth. And then you get to a certain level of wealth. Like, for example, where I'm at right now, where for me personally, being around wealth, like, for example, being Dubai, I hate Dubai. Like, I really don't like Dubai. On Thursday, I'm flying to Cape Town. Just got a new 6-bedroom house there. I'm fucking so excited to finally see it. Like, for me, Cape Town is my happy place because I have everything there is very beautiful, and all the houses and all the villas and everything like that is very beautiful. But for me, it's away from the wealth. Like, at a certain point, you already have a wealthy mindset and whatnot, and you already have an idea what's possible. So I think now you're at a stage where I think you need to get away from basically where you are. You need to go to London, which I know you're intending on. And by the way, which you could have done a long fucking time. Bro, like as I said, this man is very humble. He is very, very, very. You guys have no fucking clue. Trust me.
Thank you.
You guys have no clue how successful this dude is. Yeah. So as I said, with the resources that you have, which is a lot, yeah, I think you should be moving to London. I think expanding your network there, and yeah, I think that'll really, really broaden your horizon. So I think your money will continue to multiply many times over when you move there. I think your network will continue to multiply. And yeah, I think also the caliber of women, it's just a totally different level when you go to a city like London.
Yeah. I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
I appreciate you doing this, man.
I appreciate it, bro.
Nothing but love, bro. Where can everyone find you?
Well, wherever.
In Dubai.
Yeah. They'll
Come knock us.
If they're that interested, I'm sure they'll find me.
I'll have his stuff linked in the description. In particular, there's a couple of his YouTube videos that have personally helped me a lot. And I was saying this to him, like, not to sound cocky, but if anyone can teach me something about like monk mode, that low-key dopamine detox lifestyle after I kind of did it full time for almost a year straight. I'm pretty sure I did it like for the longest time uninterrupted out of like anyone who's been talking about it on YouTube. And here I watched like a random monk mode video of yours popped up, and I literally learned like 10 practicable things that I implemented straight away. I even showed it's almost like a fanboy thing. I was like, look, you said to do this thing and I've done it and everything. And like, it's incredibly helpful. So I'll link the direct link of the videos that I personally liked. And if you like my content of like self-improvements, young man's like increasing your SMV, discipline, productivity, you'll like those videos as well.
All right. Boom.
So take care, boys.
Good stuff, mate.
Nicely done, man.
Cheers.